Lou Vuto here. Thanks for tuning in to the ETA Files with Ryan Pelton. Let's get right into it.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me this week on ETA Files. We have a special guest all the way from born in the Bronx, from Dayton, Ohio. You might know him from Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, the one and only Lou Vuto. Lou, thank you so much for joining me.
Hey, thank you, Ryan. Good to be here. Thanks
Uh,
for asking.
yeah, man. So I started this new podcast called ETA Files, and
Right.
um, one of the things that I wanted to do is it's so funny. I've been in a great position where I've got a chance to know so many guys over the years, uh, and everyone has their own unique story.
Yeah.
So as I started, thinking about doing this, I was like, man, there's so many people. You're special in that you spent the majority of your career entertaining in Pigeon Forge, correct?
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, I was here 23 years initially, so it was a good stretch, I guess.
It's so funny. I got a great story. Before I started, my parents celebrated their anniversary. They went to Pigeon Forge and they saw Lou Vuto at Memories, and they got the whatever the DVD, and
Oh, yeah.
they got the shout out and whatnot. And I remember
Yeah,
seeing that before I ever started.
yeah, yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Pretty
That's
cool.
cool. Yeah, yeah.
So let's get into it. Like, Lou, you've got this long running career. How did you even get started in this business in the first place?
Well, of course, I was an Elvis fan initially. I actually got to see Elvis in concert when I was 13 years old. Been an Elvis fan since I was 10. And how I got into doing or being a fan was my cousin, who I just idolized at the time. He was 18 or 19, and he was really into Elvis. I would sit outside. Of course, at the time I was 10 years old, and he didn't want to hang out with me. But I would sit outside his bedroom door, and he'd be playing Elvis stuff. And he even got to see Elvis at Madison Square Garden, and then Elvis was coming in 1975 to Long Island, and I heard that he had tickets, and I was like, I want to go. So we didn't get the tickets at the same time, so I went with him, but I was sitting at, way different spot. And of course, that's something I'll never forget, being in the same room with Elvis. It was so electrifying.
I
And
bet. Yeah.
yeah, but and so over the years, I've just been a big Elvis fan. I would sing in my high school at the lunch tables, just goofing around Elvis. And so my school was gonna have a talent contest, and these musicians came up to me who were in my same grade, and they were like, "Hey, I got a drummer, I got a guitar player, and this guy was the bass player. We'll play behind you if you do Elvis." And so we did, and we won first place.
There you go.
And that kind of started the bug. Now, this was before track music or anything like that. So if you didn't play something or play with a band, there was really not any opportunity.
Right.
So we did one more show, and then for years I didn't do really anything except maybe with my guitar. Somebody had asked me to do something. But when the track tapes on what was it called? Home Shopping Club, they were advertising these track tapes, and I was like, I'm going to get some of those. And so, long story short, I did a show for a friend of mine who was doing a 50s party, and there was a DJ there who got hired out to do weddings and that. He goes, "Man, if you want to do this for work, I can get you some gigs." And I was like, "Oh, someone's going to pay me to sing like Elvis? Sign me up."
Right.
And it just snowballed from there. Actually, I was doing track shows, and every time I do a track show, not every time, but a lot of times, a musician would come, "Here's my card if you ever put a band together." So the first thing we did as a band, the owner of Memories Theater shows up, and the person who was performing there at the time was getting ready to leave, and so the rest is kind of history, I guess.
All right. And I'm assuming you're talking about Eddie there?
Yes, Eddie Miles was the first one at Memories, and he was
Right.
there for 3.5, 4 years.
Right. I
Yeah,
remember when I first started in this business hearing about Eddie Miles, Eddie Miles, Eddie
right.
Miles. And then he something happened, he hurt his back and all that. And then I heard Lou Vuto, Lou Vuto, Lou
Yeah,
Vuto.
yeah.
So it's
Act,
a interesting world
yeah.
because when there's this Elvis world out there um, that is apart from what you have done, if you know
Mhm.
what I mean.
Yes.
And you've been out there. We've both kind of been out there. I've been with Legends in concert the majority of my career. You've
Right.
been in Pigeon Forge the majority of your career. And then you get outside of that into the Elvis world. And you and I have been at gigs together or contests or whatnot. And it's a different bird, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. It's really, and I enjoy, I haven't done many contests, but I have always enjoyed them because just for the simple fact of the camaraderie, with other guys. And of course, back in the day when, like 92 or 93, I did some in Memphis, and it was like you couldn't really find things like white boots back then. Well, where'd you get your boots? Or, oh man, I got these brown boots in Goodwill, and got this white spray paint. And you'd learn stuff from other guys, but it was really a good camaraderie thing too.
That's a funny
So
thing is I was talking to Doug Church a little bit ago and some other guys, just how different it is. Some of the older old school guys like yourself and me and
yeah,
Doug Church, how different it is because now you have the internet. And a lot of
yeah,
these
yeah,
guys coming up have, you know, they didn't have to go to Blockbuster Video to get a video to learn about Elvis, you know what I mean?
right.
Or buy a book. And they've always had the ability to boom, have tracks, be able to watch video of Elvis, even the bootleg stuff. Um, the internet changed the whole game, didn't it?
Right. And I'm sure you remember this too. Before the internet, I had to sit down. We had to sit down and listen to a tape or a record and write down the lyrics if you didn't know them. Go through it very slowly, and now you can just go on a website and download immediately.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah. Think about there's so much, but I feel personally like, and I'm kind of a geek when it comes to this stuff,
yeah,
Lou.
yeah,
I I I wouldn't have had it any other way than the way it was. I really
yeah.
enjoyed the process back then of having to do the work to find this stuff,
Right.
having to figure it out. And then whenever you did get a chance to go to a contest or perform somewhere and you met up with someone, you're like, oh my gosh, and you
Yeah.
get to share like little secrets and hints and stuff like that. I remember being in Memphis and um everybody coming up, where'd you get your GI medals for that
Yeah,
GI
yeah,
outfit, and
yeah,
just stuff like that. It's pretty cool.
yeah. Yeah, it
But
was an experience. Yeah, I feel the same way, Ryan. I wouldn't trade that time for anything.
right. Absolutely, man. So 20 some years at Memories, that is, what did you say, 23 years?
I was in Pigeon Forge for 23 years. I had gone in and out at Memories. I was probably at Memories for 17 of that.
Okay.
But I had my own place back in 2000 for 2 years, 2003 to 2005. So I was gone for that little bit. And then I was at a couple other places. So I figured I was there maybe 17 out of the 23.
Yep. Yep. Now, here's a little interesting fact. So sometimes you had members of your band. I don't know when this all started to happen, but they ended up becoming members of my band, my first band called The
Oh,
Difference, Ryan Pelton and The Difference. And you had Josh Waters,
yes.
Jeff Jopling,
Yes.
and those two cats are now playing for what's his name?
Jan, is it Jansen?
Yeah, Chris Jansen. They're
Yeah,
playing
yeah,
for,
yeah.
and
Country
that's,
artist.
yep, that's kind of wild, right?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. We went to see them actually. They came up to Ohio and what a great show. I have some video that I want to post online at some point, but they were awesome. Of course, I wasn't really a Chris Jansen fan. I was watching, Jeff and Josh and also another the drummer who played with us. He was doing some I think he was working the monitors and playing acoustic guitar and stuff.
Isn't that
So
great?
yeah, 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 that was
That's awesome.
awesome.
I remember I was, I forget, just up doing something, and Amy said, "Babe, come here." And we looked at the TV, and they were on like the news. It was
Yeah,
like
yeah,
around Thanksgiving or something like that. And
yes,
um, they're there's Josh Waters and Jopling, and it's
right,
awesome, man. Those are good
right.
guys.
Oh man.
And then your son played drums for you for a while, right?
Oh, and he still does. He is a phenomenal drummer. He really studied Ronnie Tutt, but he also studied other like the drummer from Cream, and he really kind of broadened his horizons. And he's way more talented than I am in a lot of things. I've been playing guitar since I was 16, and after a year and a half, he was like light years ahead of me. But yeah, he's a phenomenal drummer.
Yeah, he came and played a couple gigs with me,
No,
and it was awesome. Yeah,
yeah.
very funny dude. Funny,
Yeah.
funny dude.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Actually, he plays with a trio in Dayton. They play around, and he plays guitar and banjo, switches off, and then another guy does fiddle and guitar, and then they have a guy doing stand-up bass, and they all sing harmony. And man, what great harmony they have.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Now, during that time in Pigeon Forge, all those years of 23 years that you're talking about, what's some cool stories? I mean, anything exciting, crazy, wild, fun?
Well, for the highlight of my time performing anywhere as Elvis, but especially in Pigeon Forge, was working with Charlie. One of Elvis's best friends. He worked on stage, Charlie Hodge, with Elvis, and I just couldn't believe it when I got here. I had heard about it ahead of time, but that was just phenomenal. Of course, I was up there making believe I was somebody, but he was the guy. You know what I mean? He was the real deal.
Right.
and uh, and it was really interesting because I learned so much from Charlie, just irreplaceable stuff. But he never said, "Oh, you need to do this. Elvis did this way." But he would tell me, and a lot of us standing around, he would tell us stories about why Elvis did something.
Oh wow.
Like, for instance, Elvis's version of White Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Charlie played, I think it was the Drifters version of White, and he says this is what Elvis was listening to. That's where he got this version or his version of White Christmas. And if you listen to that, there's a lot of similarities in it. So to hear some of that stuff, or he would bring in a gospel quartet and see Elvis listen to this, and he liked this version of this gospel song, and so it wasn't like obvious teaching stuff. It was like the heart behind a lot of the stuff.
Right.
And, which, and this, if you can get the heart behind what Elvis was doing, there's much more depth when you portray him than, just somebody mimicking what Elvis did.
Boy, I love that you just said that.
Yeah.
That is something that I find uh missing
Yeah.
sometimes.
I agree.
Um, there's some incredible entertainers out there who have taken the Elvis tribute artist idea, and listen, I can't knock them for
Yeah.
this.
No, I know what
But
you're saying.
they it is literally about becoming a exact replica copy robot of a
Right.
specific performance, like Aloha from Hawaii or whatever it might be.
Right.
That's the way it is. Exact move for move, rings are all the same, costume
Yeah.
is perfect, but it almost loses the heart, the soul of it,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yes. And same thing with the, you know, we had this or I'd have this conversation with our band many times. I never expected them to play note for note what was on the record we were listening to because, oh, let's do Polk Salad. Well, Elvis did it different in 1972. Even in that same year, if you listen to Afternoon at the Garden and then you listen to the main album, it's a little different. So to me, it was always what I wanted was for them to capture the flavor of what, the TCB band was playing. And so that could mean you could do a lead as long as it was in the same vein, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
But
I,
similar.
and that's the thing I always say, Elvis never went on stage saying, man, tonight I really need to look and sound like Elvis.
Yeah.
Or,
Right.
man, tonight I need to make sure I do this exactly the same way I did,
Yeah.
last night or the week before. Or, you know what
Right.
I mean?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
he never did that. In fact, I think if you get into some of the bootleg stuff, man, they were just having fun, man.
Right.
You
Well, and
know?
I think he was trying to be new and fresh all the time. That's why it changed, and that he was purposely not trying to do the same thing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you get stuck into a situation where you get judged and evaluated on,
Yeah.
you know, being this exact thing. It's almost uh yeah, it's just kind of like almost the opposite of what maybe it should be. I don't know. I find it interesting how everyone has a different outlook though on being an Elvis tribute artist. Some people are, it's all about the voice, and some are about the moves and the looks, and
Right.
some people, uh, I think I'm one of them, is more about like the heart of it and the
Right.
soul of it, and um, just realizing that Elvis was a great entertainer, you know.
Yeah.
Um, he was more than just a voice and more than, a good looking human being and awesome to
Right.
watch, but he was entertaining because he was in the moment.
Right. Well, except for being extremely talented and very good looking and having a lot of money, really, Elvis didn't have a thing going for him.
Yeah, nothing at all, right? It's a
Yeah.
cool
Yeah.
rags. It's one of those rags to riches stories, though, no doubt
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
I feel bad for the guy. And and you might have some insight about this. I I worked with Charlie a couple times before he passed on, and there's a number of other guys.
Right.
One thing that always would come up and seemed to be kind of a theme is how they almost felt bad for Elvis
Hmm.
because he couldn't get away from being Elvis.
Right.
You
But
know,
I have to say, I loved the recent movie that Austin Butler did. He was phenomenal. I thought all the actors were phenomenal. I had a little issue with because I heard Charlie said this on occasion that the movie to me portrayed some things that were inaccurate, and one of the things it seemed like a lot of people came away with was, "Oh, poor Elvis, the colonel took advantage of him, and it was really a." And if you'd listen to anybody who knew Elvis, they would tell you you couldn't manipulate Elvis, and you couldn't make him do anything he didn't want to do. So I know the colonel was maybe selfish in his motives a lot of times and that kind of thing. But if Elvis didn't want to do something, if he didn't want to play Vegas, Elvis wouldn't have played Vegas, you
right?
know. So I kind of, there were some things I had issue with, and that was, I don't know who wrote the screenplay or whatever it was, but the acting was phenomenal. The movie as a whole was phenomenal, but yeah.
Yeah, I get you.
So
Do you think Elvis would have been Elvis without the Colonel?
no, I don't.
I agree.
I
I
don't.
agree.
They were a good team.
Yep. And I do think it's funny. we destroy our heroes, and we always try to find the villain in everything in our modern world.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that a lot of people want to make Tom Parker, and I'm not saying Tom Parker is perfect by any means
No,
either,
no.
but there always has to be a bad guy, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
and
Right.
maybe it was just, you know, maybe it's not that there's a bad guy. Maybe just it was a relationship that worked out, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes that
Absolutely.
happens. Sometimes that happens. So you've got 23 years. That's a long time too. I mean, in one
Yeah.
place.
No kidding. I feel very blessed. I was able to be in my own bed every night, be with my family. And really, even if you think of Hollywood and any kind of entertainment, it's unheard of to have a stretch that long. And I don't mean that to sound bragging. I feel very blessed that I got to, have that, do
Absolutely.
that for so long. Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. I've been lucky to I had I think it was a 6 to 7 year run in Myrtle Beach. I think I'm going on like 8 years here in
Yeah,
Branson. Um,
right.
and then just, popping in and out of a number of different venues over the
Right.
years and out on my own. But yeah, I mean, 23 years, that's an amazing opportunity to,
Yeah.
you know, like you said, sleep in your own bed. That's a big deal,
Yeah. Be home
especially,
with the family.
yeah, especially as you get older, no doubt about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
How has how has Pigeon Forge changed over the years?
One thing, and now I'm back, and of course we'll talk about that in a bit, but I'm back here, and one thing I noticed that I don't know is necessarily a good thing, but it seems like some corporations have moved in
Mm,
where it used to be kind of a ma and pa. A lot of the businesses were very down home and local, and I think some of that has been lost, sadly,
yeah,
because some of the corporations have moved in and they saw a good opportunity, whatever. I mean, nothing against them, but I really enjoyed the down home, local kind of thing. And there's still some of that, but there's a few theaters left that are owned by individual people, but majority of them are like a corporation thing.
yeah. I get it. I get it.
So,
Man, I tell you what, the traffic there is just unbelievable.
oh, yeah. But I have to say, they have done something. I'm not sure what they've done because I can't see it, but traffic does move a lot easier than it used to, even though I think there's probably a lot more people in town.
Yeah, I was amazed at coming from Branson, people call Branson and Pigeon Forge similar. I don't
Yeah,
think they are.
yeah, yeah.
I think Pigeon Forge is um I'm not bad mouthing Branson, but it's definitely more
Hmm.
modernized.
I've
Um,
never been to Branson. I want to go sometime, but I've never been there.
you guys have taken care of your infrastructure. Problem with Branson, I love it. Don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of like older buildings, hotels,
Hmm.
things like that that you know just got abandoned basically, and they never tore them down and
Hmm.
whatnot. So you're driving, you're like, this is kind of, until you get to like the newer parts
Yeah,
of
yeah,
town, it's kind of weird. So,
yeah,
but yeah, I love, and you have a Waffle House
yeah.
in Pigeon Forge, and we can't get a Waffle House in Branson. It's so upsetting.
Right, right. Matter of fact, funny story. The Waffle House, yes, but there was also at the time we first got here, there was something called a Huddle House, which was very similar. Which my first when I came down to audition, I was filling in. Actually, there was a guy in between Eddie and I, Pete Wilcox,
Oh, I know Pete.
and yeah, yeah, he was here for almost 2 years, and then I came in. Now I got interesting. I got offered the job before Pete, but I turned it down, and that's another story. But so anyway, I came in to do the audition, fill in for Pete for like a 3-day weekend, and it really went well. The owners thought it really went well, and they offered me the job because of that, or based on that. Well, I think I got a little freaked out my first day when it was my gig. I did the worst show I'd ever done. I was so nervous, and it was such a terrible show. And so afterwards, the owner, myself, and then one of his friends, we go to Huddle House, and they had just signed me to a pretty decent money contract, and he looks at me, goes, "Lou, what the heck happened?" And I was like, "I don't know." He goes, "Well, do you think it'll be any better tomorrow night?" I said, "I think so."
That's that's awesome. That's awkward, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I felt, so bad. And here's the funny thing too. Before we went to Huddle House, of course, Charlie was there. And now I heard this part of the story maybe days later, but I got changed and I came up to the front where they were in the office. And I said, I looked long in the face. I said, man, that was the worst show I'd ever done. And one of the owners goes, yes. And I was like, okay, what's that all about? Come to find out later, Charlie had come up before me and they were like, Charlie, what do we do? What happened? And he goes, oh, he's just nervous. He said, if he comes up and said that was the best show I have ever done, we're in trouble. But if he comes up and realizes that he did a bad show, then we're good. So when I said that was the worst show, it was like, yes.
That's funny. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, are you talking what was her name? D?
D Gallon, right.
Yeah, D. That's who you're talking about?
Yeah, she was at the time, she was she was always the owner's sister, but she eventually bought the theater from her brother.
That's awesome,
So,
man.
and then owned it. Yeah.
Those are great old stories.
Oh my gosh.
People don't see they don't see the behind the scenes stuff. They don't see the little after show meetings at Huddle House.
Right,
You
right,
know?
right,
And
right.
they don't see that a 23-year career started out with the worst show you ever did.
Absolutely.
I love it. That's awesome. So what happened? I mean, I don't even know the story. You got 23 years. I know that there was a point where you moved from Pigeon Forge to Dayton, Ohio. It
Right.
sounds like you still kind of live there. But now you're
Yeah.
back in Pigeon Forge. What exactly is going on?
So, I when the thing at Memories started to change and I left there, I wasn't really doing anything the last year or two. I was working at another theater, but I was a small part of a show. And our kids had moved back to Dayton, Ohio, which is where they were born, and 4 or 5 years they spent there. But they still had friends there, so they both moved back there. Nothing was going on here for me, career wise, and so we were like, let's go be by the kids. And so that's kind of the reason we moved back. So this many years later, actually, a couple of years back, someone calls me and says, Lou, what would it take to put Memories back together? Because it had since been closed. And we talked about it. And two different guys called me and asked me the same question. They both got cold feet and backed out at the last minute. I wound up a friend of mine who I'd gone to college with wanted to do it, was interested in doing it. And so I came in town, I helped him open up. I spent maybe 10 or 4 months there or something, getting everything up and running. And just kind of got time for me to leave, and they were up and running, and whatever. So I came back to Dayton. Another friend of mine had this little theater, which you see behind me here, and he was getting ready to retire. It's a little 115 seat theater. He was getting ready to retire, and he said, "You have any interest in doing this?" And I thought about it, and I thought, yeah, I'd something to do for retirement.
Sure.
I am retirement age and not 33 anymore, and so I thought I really missed performing. And so I said, yeah, and came down, and we're getting this place. I kind of took it over, I guess, and getting it kind of a new lease, so to speak, on it.
Gotcha.
So I'm
Gotcha.
performing again, yeah.
Is it going to be just all you in the show?
R- So that's the other funny thing. Initially, it was supposed to be there was a guy doing a salute to Elvis here with my friend Travis James, who did Conway Twitty for years. We worked together at Memories, and then he he opened this place. And he had a guy doing Elvis here, and the initial plan was this guy was going to continue, and then I would do a show once, maybe twice a month.
Right.
This guy had a change in plans, a family situation. So I was like, okay, well, I'll cover it. Still looking for somebody to do it all the time because I'm way too old to do this many days a week.
Gotcha.
And so yeah, so that was the initial plan. But yeah, I do my show now as I do Dean Martin in the first half. I do Neil Diamond, Tom Jones, Johnny Cash, Nat King Cole, and some others. And then the second half is what I've always done, a salute to Elvis. We do tracks. It's a small place, but I do like multimedia stuff. I do clips of Elvis on the screens, and Elvis even introduces one or two of the songs where, like Walk a Mile, he does
Oh
that
yeah.
poem, and I got that, and then I come out and do, or the lights go up and I do Walk a Mile. We've done Why Me, Lord, where I put JD in there actually singing his part, and then it goes into the track, and it, he's on the video screen. So try to make it more interesting because I'm a little self-conscious without the band, Worked so many
Yeah.
years with a band.
It's different, right?
Yeah, oh my gosh, it's way to well, and as you know, you're on a track, you're following the track, but on with a band, they're following you,
Right.
you
Right.
know.
And not only that, but there's I think I've always felt anyways, there's camaraderie. Um,
Yes.
you know, it's like that bundle of sticks. One is easy to break, but a bunch of them is hard to break, and you always
Right.
had that. It didn't matter what the audience was, good, bad, or indifferent.
Right.
You're kind of all up there in it together. I love that camaraderie.
Yeah, yeah, and the interact well, part of that camaraderie is the interaction, right?
Yeah.
And plus the fact to me, someone's sitting they're sitting in the audience and they may be watching you, but they glance at the guitar player or they look at the girls, and so there's more going on to keep it interesting to me.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
so that's why I've been doing the video and the other stuff, to kind of make it all more interesting, I guess.
Absolutely. Now, is a show open now?
It is. We're just doing weekends.
Okay.
January, February, and March, we're doing Thursday through Saturday.
All
So
right.
now in the daytime, we have a matinee, a young lady that actually, when we were putting memories back together, I had hired. She was one of the three vocalists, female vocalists, but she's here now doing a tribute to Patsy Cline. She and her husband worked with us for New Year's Eve, and they did some other stuff. And she is so talented; it's unbelievable. But she does Patsy just to the T.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Very cool. And
yeah.
what's the name of the theater, if I can ask?
Let me see. I got it written down here. Oh, it's Lou Vuto's Showplace. Uh,
I literally for a second fell for that.
yeah,
It's like, God doesn't even know the name of his theater. Jeez.
right. Well, what happened was, of course, Memories has been, a staple in town here for so many years, and now I have a partner in this endeavor. And when we were talking about it, he said, because we are not at Memories, your name is probably the next thing known well in town. We have to use your name, which I
I think
was,
that's smart.
yeah, I thought it was smart too, but it's a little, you know,
God,
I hate saying the name.
that Lou Vuto sure is full of
Yeah,
himself. There's always going to be that person out there,
yeah,
right?
yeah, right, right, right.
No, I think that makes total sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Lord Almighty, it does. Yeah.
So, well, and then the other thing was, I didn't want to call it a theater because, we're in a strip mall here basically, and it's, we have theater seats and all that, but no matter how much money you put into a retail space, it's never going to be quite as nice as the worst theater on the Parkway. So I didn't want somebody who had never been here to go to one of the nicer theaters and then, oh, let's go see that Elvis show or whatever, that theater. And then they show up and it's like, oh man, this is nothing like the theater we were just in. I'd rather kind of undersell it than try to oversell it. So I called it Showplace, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. But you're having fun, right?
Oh, I love, you know, I like you, I love performing and you know, the only good thing about not having a band or I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but what I wound up interacting more with the audience, with the people in the crowd.
Yeah, you kind of have to,
And
right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So no, I like you, like I said, I love performing.
That's awesome, man. Good for
Yeah.
you. Good for you.
Yeah.
Well, do you mind if I get you ask you a couple rapid fire fun
Yeah.
questions
No,
as
no.
you answer them from the Lou Vuto Showplace
Right.
Theater,
Theater
whatever?
or whatever.
What's your favorite part? Um, it's always crazy how we get into this stuff. And everyone's story is unique, and you told yours, but over the years, what's been your favorite part of being an Elvis tribute artist?
You know, of course, it's a very active role as a fan that you're playing, you know, as an Elvis fan.
Sure.
And again, like you, I love the music. I never, you know, I'm not a big fan of the new stuff that they're remixing and do. I never get tired of listening to Elvis stuff and to be able to sing it and to belt it out. I just love the music. Of course, Elvis was such a great guy. You know, he had faults like the rest of us, but to I have a thing in the opening of the show where I talk about having seen Elvis live when I was 13, and at that time I saw watching Elvis, I thought I'd like to do something like that someday and make people happy like he's doing. You know, like I was watching. I mean, people were just so happy and so into what he was doing, and so you know, to me, Ryan, I can watch somebody on stage and I can tell whether they're giving or they're taking.
Mm,
And I like to, I mean, I think the key to really entertaining people is going up there and not saying, oh, look at me, look at what I can do, you know, give me the accolades, give me the applause. But it's, you know, what can I do to make them happy? What can I do to entertain them? What can, you know, it's a giving thing, I think. I think that's really a big key.
wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Not a lot of people think that way,
Yeah.
but
So,
all
but I
right.
think if you watch Elvis, you know, you kind of get that
Absolutely.
unless you're just tunnel vision, you know.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, having this conversation with you, Lou, it suddenly becomes having not performed with you that often or whatnot, just knowing a little bit more of you from the outside looking in,
Hmm.
um, hearing your take on this stuff and your perspective, your paradigm, greatly explains your success and your longevity in this business. That's awesome. That's a
Hmm.
compliment, by the way.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
thank you.
you're doing it right. You're doing it from the heart. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What is on the other side of that question though? What is the worst part about being an Elvis tribute artist all these years?
So, I don't know if specifically as an Elvis tribute artist, but I think as an entertainer in general, because we're all not perfect, it seems like it's inevitable that, you know, because Elvis was such an iconic figure and such larger than life, and people kind of relate you to that. I feel like I wind up letting people down from time to time. You know, I don't do what they expect me to do, whether it's answer correctly or show up for, can you sing at my wedding or something, you know, like that. I feel like there's times where and I think it's in any field, and I think it's, you know, if people put you on a pedestal or anything near to a pedestal, you're going to let people down at some point. And I really have a hard time because I know that at times I've done that. You know, people have been disappointed. So, you know, I think that's probably the worst as it being in entertainment in general.
Yeah, I think that is a point that not a lot of people realize. Um,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, Lou, uh, you're human, I'm human, you
Yeah.
know. Um, and even Elvis Presley was human, you
Right.
know.
Right.
Uh, Elvis Presley had bad days.
Yeah.
We just didn't see them always.
Right.
And there are expectations. And I think in this business, because it was Elvis, yes, you're right. There's a certain, maybe even a higher level. Uh, and you have to carry that, burden, and you have to try to carry it with grace,
Yeah.
because there are times when, um, you know, I can tell you, there's times where being Elvis does not square itself up perfectly with being Ryan.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's a burden you have to carry for sure. I think a lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I didn't really mean to seem like I was saying that people's expectations are not realistic, and but even times when I've done things wrong, where maybe I've answered wrong, or I got ticked off at something, or what, I've done stupid stuff before that people have gotten hurt over. Yeah, right. And so it's not all, oh, I haven't lived up to someone's unrealistic expectations. That sounds real noble, but we've also done stupid stuff. Um, I remember, and I'm going to tell you, I remember one time waking up from a nap. I used to nap right before a show
Oh, wow.
for a lot of years, and I just had woken up. I was real groggy, and I had showed up at the theater. I got out of the car, said, "Can we take a picture?" And no. And I went in the thing, and of course, then I felt bad. And a few minutes later, I came out, but they were gone. And so I've done stupid stuff too. But that's the pressure of that sometimes is, I think, the worst thing
Yeah.
to deal with.
I got you, man. I got you.
Yeah.
What's your favorite song to the two-part question? What's your favorite Elvis song? And then what's your favorite Elvis song to sing or perform? Because I know for me, it's different.
Yeah. I think my favorite. Hmm, I don't know. Really high on the list anyway is Elvis's '70s version of "Trying to Get to You." I love the way he belts that out, especially from the Live in Memphis album. Of course, he belted out so many songs, but that is just such a very emotional
Yeah.
performance. Of course, "How Great Thou Art" is from that same album, is right up there as well. My two favorite ones to perform have to be "Suspicious Minds" and "You've Lost That Love and Feeling."
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
his cover of that, "You've Lost That Love and Feeling," is just, again, so full of emotion. And the "Suspicious Minds" thing, I think, became a favorite because to perform, because for years we did the thing where we put Elvis on the screens, and it was kind of a combined effort
Yeah.
between me and the video guy. He would line up the video, and as long as I did the moves in sequence, that always got such a great reaction.
Yep. I remember my parents talking about that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That's
So,
cool. What about that 1960, 68 to 70, 71 era of Elvis's career, man? That to me is just the best.
yeah,
I think he never sounded better, looked better. He had
yeah,
you know, his voice was, and some of those songs too that you just don't hear all the time, like Any Day Now,
yeah, yeah,
Long Black Limousine, and all that stuff that was recorded during that time. Just, oh, it's awesome
yeah.
music.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the '68 comeback which wasn't called that initially, I know, but that was such great material. But then those, I think it was January and February of 1969, there were so many songs that were iconic songs. Kentucky Rain, Don't Cry Daddy, In the Ghetto, Suspicious Minds, of course. So many that like were key songs for Elvis, right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
recording session. And of course he had, and then here again, Charlie would talk about how Elvis really wanted to be a serious actor. And but after a while he kind of felt like the movies were getting silly, the music in the movies was getting silly. And so when he got out of the movie contract and he got back to do some music he felt passionately about, you know, those were those recording sessions.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. Uh,
Yeah.
kind of also illustrates to maybe all of us that sometimes you got to get away from something to find your
Yeah.
first love, you know? Yeah.
Right, right.
And maybe that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what you're doing down in Pigeon Forge at the
Right.
Lou Vuto showplace.
Right, right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What would you say to Elvis if you could meet him today? If you met him face to face, what would you say?
Oh man, I've thought about that many times. I don't know specifically what I would say, but I think if he was willing to sit down with me at some point and we were sitting down together, I would want to talk to him about the Bible. We were both, he was a Christian, I'm a Christian, and I would love to have, just sat down and talked the Bible with Elvis.
Very cool.
That to me would have been awesome.
Ah, that's cool. That's
Yeah.
very cool. Not an answer I've gotten so far. That's pretty cool. Would you do that at like maybe a huddle house?
Maybe, maybe.
Nothing wrong with a little Bible talk at the huddle
There you
house.
go.
Um, yeah, really.
Yeah.
There's so many young guys coming up in this business. And I am literally amazed. I thought I was, you know, young and out of place whenever I got into this. And here, I'll be 52 very shortly.
Mm.
How crazy is it that some of these kids, are like, 16, 17 years old and
Right.
they're in it. And,
Right.
something about youth too, man. I'll tell you what, these young guys
W-
coming up, they're great.
Yeah. And
But
isn't
there's
it great that of course, Graceland being open, I mean, that what they do continues to make fans, of course, the movie and, all that. But
what advice would you give to, I mean, someone like yourself who's had this long career, who's done it right? Um, and I feel like, from the right place. What advice would you give to some of these young bucks coming in and as far as, how to conduct themselves or how to take it serious? I mean, just overall, what would you say? What advice would you give?
well, you know that if you're going to try to make a counterfeit dollar bill, what you do, the best thing you could do is watch or look at the original and study the original. A lot of guys, I think, sometimes look at each other and try to do, copy that. But to me, I would say watch Elvis, listen to Elvis, put headphones on and listen to how Elvis breathes when he sings a song. Just listen to every detail you can. Watch Elvis, watch the videos over and over. Read any books by people who would have known Elvis. Books by Priscilla, by Charlie, by Joe, by JD. These people who are close to Elvis, and just get to learn Elvis. You have to study the original, and you have to be like a stickler on that, I think.
Yeah.
And of course, the last thing is stay humble.
Yeah.
So,
Humility is,
yeah,
yeah, for sure. And, like I always say, you can be the best Elvis tribute artist in the world, but you're still just pretending to be someone else,
right, right.
just kind of maybe keep that in perspective, right?
Yes,
So,
yes.
well, Lou, I'll tell you what, man, I appreciate you coming on. It's been very interesting. I feel like I've learned even more about you. Tell the people if they want to get a hold of you, they want to come down to Pigeon Forge and see your show. How do they get a hold of you as far as website, social media? Tell us about your theater, all that.
Right. So we're on TripAdvisor, we're on Yelp, but the website we have is Lou Vuto's Showplace. So the S on the end of Vuto's and then Showplace, is, there's a double S there. So louvutosshowplace.com is the webpage. Our phone number is 865-428-7852. That actually, we had to hunt down that number. That was Memory's number for years. And so, yeah, they can call and make reservations as well. And we're in Pigeon Forge, stoplight number 4 on the Parkway.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How did you go about getting the old Memories phone number?
Well, it's funny. When I was helping reopen Memories, I tried to get a hold of it, and I was unsuccessful. And we wound up just getting a new number at that time. This time around, I called a friend of mine who was a technical guy, and I go, "Can you find that? No, I need to get that number." No one had it because I tried to call it. So he found out where it was or how to get a hold of it, and it wasn't that hard, really. You just had to know where to look.
How about that?
Yeah.
How about that?
So,
does it spell anything, or is it just the old number that everyone used to know for 20 some years?
Yeah, no, I don't think it's spelled. I never looked at it that way, but it might.
Watch out.
Yeah. We'll look.
Well, man, thank you so much. It's been awesome. I appreciate you coming on, and good luck in 2025. Anything that you're a part of will be amazing, though, I'm sure.
Thank you so much, Ryan. It was really a pleasure, and hope to work together sometime or see each other.
Absolutely, man. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you get a chance, get down to Pigeon Forge, check out Lou Vuto. Buddy, I appreciate you so much. Good luck.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in this week to the ETA Files. If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And as always, be sure to hit that subscribe button and join the ETA Files community. And if you're looking for something a little different, be sure to stop by my podcast, The Ryan Files. Keep rocking, my friends, and I'll see you next week with another story from the Elvis Tribute Artist world. In the meantime, check out these video links below.